Thanks, everybody. Thanks so much. Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Camilleri. In 2015, 2 prisoners at Clinton Correctional Facility in the village of Dannemora, New York, escaped and led police on a 22-day manhunt. In the days that followed, details of their plan and the lives they led behind bars grew increasingly strange, from a guard's obsession with one of the prisoners' artwork to an affair that both the men were having with a woman by the name of Joyce Mitchell. This story is being brought to life in what I think is the best limited series show to come across yet. It is thrillingly directed by Ben Stiller and starring Benicio Del Toro, Paul Dano, and Patricia Arquette, all who deliver some of the best performances of their career. Let's take a look at Escape at Dannemora.
So you're a 51-year-old woman who's been with the same man for 20 years, 21 years? So we can have an adult conversation.
Okay.
Did you have sex with these 2 inmates?
No.
I just figured you're friends with my friend, and that makes us friends.
What's going on with you and Tilly?
Maybe we can arrange a get-together soon.
I'm down there every night. I'm cutting the pipe. I'm doing the work, and all you do is sleep.
Nobody knows about a marriage except the people in the marriage, and sometimes even they don't know.
So you want to be part of my dream?
Yes.
Say it.
I want to be a part of your dream.
If you feel that it's real, I'm on trial, and I'm here again, your prison.
You focus on something in your mind,
Through a glass eye, your throne.
feel it in your heart,
The one danger zone.
and you commit to it,
To the pilot for control.
it will come true.
Take me to the pilot.
But once in our lives, we're winning.
Take me to the pilot, lead me to the train.
Whatever you knew them to be while they were in there, they're in a lot different circumstances now.
Lead me to the train. Take me to the pilot.
Sure, there's a dark side, but there's also a very human side.
Did you ask her why she was giving Matt meat?
No, I knew we were in a gray area with the meat.
Wouldn't it be convenient to be the only person who lives to tell the story?
I didn't do anything wrong. I mean, not really wrong.
Everybody, please welcome from Escape at Dannemora, Benicio Del Toro, Patricia Arquette, and Paul Dano. Guys, congratulations. I love this so much. I think that trailer perfectly captures the tone of this piece, which is that it's scary, it's weird, it's kind of funny, and it's thrilling. That Elton John is kind of perfectly used, and I think it's actually maybe used in the series as well. First things first, you know, I've always thought of Ben Stiller as a pretty serious director, even when he was doing broad comedies. I always thought he had something to say, and I always thought he was very good, but I think a lot of people see Ben Stiller's name on this and they say, how is that possible? Where is the guy who directed The Cable Guy coming from to direct something like this? I stand by The Cable Guy, personally. But what did you think when he first approached you guys and said, I'm doing a 7-episode series based on the true story of the escape from the Clinton Correctional Facility?
I'd always wanted to work with Ben. We'd been wanting to work together as director and actor for a long time. And I'd been interested in the story, so I was really excited to be given the opportunity to work with Ben on this material.
For me, I like him as an actor, like him as a director. Met him, and he brought in the script. And what I noticed is that he was fully committed, and to sound like it's a cliche, but looking for the truth, and being as real and as close to what happened as possible was like the way he approached the whole show, and I really enjoyed collaborating with him.
I think similarly, you're feeling Ben's other films are really well made. Even the broader comedies than Cable Guy, right? I mean, Tropic Thunder is a really good movie. It's well made. Zoolander, to me, it wasn't that big of a leap. Of course, you go, oh, okay, yeah, Ben Stiller, we know him as he's, like one of the biggest, comedians in the world or whatever. But whenever somebody also gets the chance to sometimes step outside of, just a little bit outside of what we think they are, usually there's a good reason for it. And I think it often allows like an artist to really kind of fully express another part of themselves. And I think Ben did that. I think he did a really incredible job.
Also, usually on these things, directors don't sign on for the whole project. They do one episode. So to have that kind of vision throughout, I think you have a real through line of the story and the pacing and everything, the look, all of it.
The three of you deliver wonderful performances, but you deliver a performance that walks a very fine line. It's really incredible to watch. And I wonder if you feel like you could pull something like that off with multiple directors coming through for each episode, because in each episode there is a kind of a consistent question of whether or not we're with your character, whether or not we empathize with her, whether or not we're laughing at her or laughing with her, and you deliver each moment perfectly and in a somewhat ambiguous way at times for audiences. Can you talk about calibrating that with Ben?
Well, I definitely really wanted to move away from the concept that I had to be empathetic, or the audience needed to care about her, not care about her. Just come from a place where you're telling the truth about how she perceives those moments. What's upsetting her, what she wants in her life, what she's disappointed about. Just grounding it back in yourself instead of going on the outside and wondering how everyone looks at you from the outside in.
And what about you guys when it came to playing these two real-life men who were convicted murderers and escaped from prison? Because so much of your job is actually sort of getting the audience on board with them for the first few episodes of the series.
Well, I let the writer take care of that, and you just try to make it as convincing. My job is trying to make it convincing for the audience, but really the writer has to map the journey of the character. I think the writers did a really good job of making those arcs, and then we can, as an actor, as an interpreter, then you can go in and maybe change something here or play something a little bit darker or lighter, and gauging what everything is going to build up to become. That's but it's the writer really that has to, and I think Ben also is a writer too. He kind of understands the journey of the characters, so he was very good to collaborate. To throw in ideas. These are two of the best actors anywhere. So ideas were coming out in the open, and Ben was able to put that stuff together so that everyone could, become better.
There is this kind of change in your performances as well, I think, about nearing the end without giving anything away. We know that these guys escaped. That's real life story. It's in Wikipedia, guys. There's news articles. But there is this idea where someone steps in and says these guys were one way on the inside, and now that they're on the outside, they're kind of completely different people. And we have sort of been watching the show as that. We've watched the way that you've existed as this kind of cool, calm, collected guy behind bars, but outside of prison, you're sort of this feral animal who doesn't know where to go, and in some ways is kind of lumbering and foolish when it comes to interacting with the real world. That's a change in your performance. Was that something that you just saw in the writing, or was that something that you were excited to try to pull off?
We talked about that. It happens out there. I used to have a dog, great dog, and his name was Greco. And Greco, at home, he was a type of dog, really sweet and obey orders and all that stuff. And then one day we took him to Malibu, and he went crazy. He just started running, and we would call him up, and he wouldn't stop, and he would come and run and run and run. And it was just like, you realize that, and we are like that. It's what they call home court advantage. you play better at home. If you're a team, you play better at home than away. And I think that Matt, you know, in jail was the alpha. And outside, with all the distractions and a little bit of alcohol, that made him a completely disorganized and flawed escapee.
When you guys were doing the scenes, Paul, did you, I mean, especially I think between, and with you as well, Patricia, did you guys play it a lot of different ways and multiple different takes? Because when I was watching it, I was so shocked when humor would suddenly pop up out of it, and it would be almost somewhat, there would be almost a slapstick moment of some kind in the middle of this escape, like when Benicio pops his head out of a tent and says, "You clean the shit up." There is something that was so comical about the way that that was presented, but that is also in the middle of this intense escape. Are you guys on set kind of trying as many different options as possible?
I think we had room, right, to explore, to mess around, to play, to ask questions. Ben was a very giving director. I mean, Ben's incredibly specific in terms of the look of the show, the details of the real escape, just using real people from the escape, using real ex-cons as our extras, everything, you know, I mean, he really, but with us, he was, I would say, very giving. So I think we got to, you know, mess around. I don't think we were looking at it like, let's make sure there's a funny moment in this crazy scene or whatever. That comes from the scene. There's shit all over the bathroom. That's fun. I mean, you know, somehow that's funny, right? I mean, it's, and it's just the characters, you know, the whole thing is these people put inside of this very petri dish of a place. And, you know, you have to bust out of it in so many different ways emotionally, including with humor.
Patricia, your husband is played by Eric Lang, who does a pretty incredible job in this series as well. What was it like doing the scenes with him?
Well, he's a really talented actor, and, you know, very different than the character that he's playing in this. It was fun working with him. I mean, I think their relationship, he's so open and hopeful and loving and everything, kind of like a big dog or something. But also I think she's come to resent him and feel like a caretaker for him and take him for granted and all of that stuff. Eric was having a blast with his part. I mean, he was cracking up all the time in between takes and coming up with a lot of great ideas. And I think really enjoyed that character and that man.
Did you have fun with your part, or was it difficult playing someone who's kind of a bit of a ball of resentment no matter where you throw her?
That's funny. Yeah, no, it was really fun playing somebody like that.
Did either of you, obviously Richard Matt has passed away, but did either of you, were you able, I think David Sweat's in solitary confinement, so maybe you probably can't have visitors or you can't talk to him? I don't know.
No, Ben Stiller got us in there.
Really?
Yeah, he finds a way. Yeah, we got to go meet David Sweat. And that was really, it was interesting. It was actually hard to walk into a prison and talk to a human being behind the glass or the bars for several hours, which we did. It was really important, though, to remember and see that that person has other parts themselves besides the part that we know in the news that they killed somebody. And that they're in prison. And so that was a helpful reminder, but a painful one. Visiting the prisons in general, I found really hard. It's the energy, the smell, just the density of the air, the sense of danger, all the prisoners described the adrenaline drip, you know, that you're feeling when you're in there, just having to take care of yourself, protect yourself. And something David Sweat talked about was that you have to basically tuck parts of yourself away. You know, you have to put up something, and so that was I think an important element to the character that came from meeting him.
Did you think that did you pull some of that for when you were playing the scenes as David Sweat in prison? I think specifically the one of him yelling at a group of guys for playing domino too loud.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think all of them say this, but I think David said it. I think Eric Jensen said it. Like, you have to step to something right away. Like, if you don't, you're prey. You know, you're toast. So, but again, repression, right? Like the cells, putting somebody in a cell, the front that we sort of have to put up and not deal with any other parts of ourselves because we can't have anybody see it, and your sleeping space is even visible. All that getting pushed, all those parts of yourself getting pushed down, I think creates a lot of whatever it is for rage or, I don't know.
Sure. What about Joyce? Were you able to talk to her?
I met David Sweat, but I didn't want to meet Joyce because I'd watched Joyce on Matt Lauer, and then later information came out, so I knew that she'd been lying on Matt Lauer, and to watch her lie was interesting. But I also knew from people that we'd met, because Ben brought in so many people that were either guards or worked in the sewing room with Tilly and all of this, and I knew both these guys. They said she was very litigious and always like, I'm going to call, your supervisor on you, and I'm going to write you up. And I really didn't want her to dictate the terms of the show or insert her manipulative aspects, because even when the escape had happened and it started to come out that she was somehow involved, and she had her lawyer send out a letter to the press saying, cease and desist, stop using my client's picture and her name in relation to these criminals. I want nothing to do with them. I have nothing to do with this. So I didn't really want to sit there with Tilly and have her talk about how this show is going to run.
I was watching the show, and I had screeners, so someone was in the room with me, I think, while I was watching the show, and they caught a few minutes of your scene, and the first thing they said right away was, that is one of the bravest things I've seen a person do on television, what she's doing. And I was like, what do you mean? She said she's holding nothing back. She wants nothing about this character. She doesn't want to hide anything about this character. Did it feel that way for you as well in doing the performance?
Yeah, we talked about that beforehand. I mean, this idea, I swear to God, you might see anything else in the movie before you're going to see a middle-aged woman without a Playboy bunny body in the bright light of day, having sex and enjoying her sexuality and being unapologetically sexual. That's a real thing that happens in the world every day. Millions and millions of people. And yet it's something that's like so strange. We haven't seen it in film. I don't know what we're doing here in film. We're not really talking about human beings.
She's no hero, though, at the same time.
She's no hero, but it doesn't matter, hero or anti-hero. Human beings are sexual. What body type's allowed to be sexual? What age group are you allowed to be sexual? What do you have to look like to be sexual as a human being? To have needs, to want to be loved, to all of these things. So I was excited about this conversation about talking about why is that so abnormal? Mm-hmm. It shouldn't be. So I think we all kind of were talking about a lot of different aspects and drilling deeper into it. But yeah, it's scary.
Benicio, what kind of research did you do for Richard Matt, considering he's no longer with us?
I read the script, read transcripts, met with, I was with Paul and Ben the first time they met David Sweat, so I met David Sweat.
What did David tell you about Richard Matt?
Well, he was into movies. He was a big fan of The Sopranos. The details when they escaped, the details was like the things that they did, the things, how they clean after they were cutting the sheet of metal and all that stuff that they were doing. Those details were really good. A couple things made it into the story, but there were a lot of transcripts, and you can really put a person together from reading little things about moments in his life. Abandoned as a child, grew up in an orphanage, was in jail when he was maybe in his teens for the first time, escaped out of jail out of an orphanage when he was a kid. He escaped out of jail when he was in his teens, got caught again, in and out of jail. And then the thing that really made it really intense was the fact that he met his father for the first time. I think this is true. In jail, while he was in jail when he was 19 or 20. That's the first time he meets his father.
His father's in jail too?
His father is in jail too, and he meets him in jail. So now, when you get that and you put that together, you then see someone how in order to survive, perhaps cruelty, lack of empathy is kind of like the weapons to survive, and that you start putting the character and putting the character together. But then again, like Paul was saying, even the worst of people, they have moments, at some point, someone liked them. At some point, they charmed someone, you know. So then you start creating these characters that are like convicted murderers that you feel as you're watching it, and I've watched most of the episodes, you feel some kind of, at least you feel like you're entertained by what's happening, because they might be clever. And so I think that's what part of what we do as actors is make that so that it's not just one note, you know.
I think also just the fact that the real history of Matt shows this conjuring aspect he had. People don't break out of jail once, let alone multiple times. I mean, in different institutions. The guy kind of had a magical element of the capacity to make the impossible happen. So sometimes I think also when you're looking at a character, I mean, there could be many movies made just about Matt and the crazy adventures that Matt had. So, yeah, I think it's a really fascinating
That's an idea.
Franchise Escape at Dannemora.
But no.
It's called Escape at whatever the other was.
But the bottom line is that it's a sad a waste of the possibility of talent, of a talented human life that went the wrong way, you know. So we have to recognize that. I recognize that as the actor who goes to play this, you know.
Well, he's the kind of person that people want to surround themselves with, even when he's incarcerated. We have a guard played by David Morse who wants to be around Matt and wants to hang out with him and please him. And I think your character at the same time wants to please him as well. You know, he has no idea why he went back for him, because there was an element of his character and his personality that he felt the need to please and to impress, I think.
I think so, for sure, and I think we sometimes need things from our friends or our, you know, when you're in prison, whatever that relationship is, and I don't know that would David have had the sand to go through this without Matt having the vision, but would Matt have been able to do it without David, being able to sort of engineer some of the practical, technical elements of it? I think that was a symbiotic relationship in that regard.
One thing I don't think that we've mentioned is that it is a huge scale production, not just for the fact that it is 7 episodes, but essentially like an interior prison was kind of built for it, and I'm not sure the yard. But then at the same time, the cinematography is stunning and beautiful and very specific and color coordinated and incredible to watch. I don't think I've seen anything like it on television right now, but can you talk a little bit about the sets that you guys were using and the real locations? I know the manhole that you come out of is the actual place they escaped from, right? 7 questions. Go.
Yeah, so in the North Yard, the yard is the yard at Clinton Correctional. The manhole, which
prisoners
they had
were
sealed.
inside while they were shooting on the yard.
Yeah. And again, that's been...
beautiful shot that's kind of looking down on you guys as you're walking through the yard, having that long conversation.
That's a crane shot outside of the wall, above the wall.
Wow.
Couldn't bring the crane in. And a zoom lens, yeah, it's incredible. It's a great, it's an amazing shot. And you've not seen anything like it, that yard. I mean, it's really special, but it's really singular location. And the identity of the atmosphere is so much based on where you are. That is Clinton Correctional, which is different than other prisons. So I think we were lucky to get to go actually work there, along with the giant set that was built in Queens.
How often were you able to shoot in the yard of Clinton Correctional? Was that like, do you have like 2 days and then you had to get out of there?
We did some interiors and exteriors, me and Lyle going in and out of the prison. And then you guys did 2 days, or?
We did the North Yard. We did it in the fall, and then we did it in the winter. So we did it sometime in September, and then we did it in February or something like that.
And they
So
had
we
to
went
choreograph the whole fight outside of there. And work on that and choreograph that, because you only have limited time on the yard. And that prison yard itself is very rare. It's a turn-of-the-century prison. It's these old blocks, cold, you know, really harsh kind of environment. What he said they call it Little Siberia up there, Ben said. So
Yeah,
it's
I was
very
just going to say
cold
that
and
wide
intense.
crane shot, it really looks very like stone-based, and they're kind of like doing pull-ups and push-ups off of what look like rocks.
Yeah, in the old days, they used to actually let the snow pile up and have ski jump competitions off of that. There's actually a big history of that particular yard. People's gardens and who gets to move up the ranks and get a space in a garden, and which groups and, you know, kind of different gangs have different areas. And
Let's get some questions from our audience. Who has a question? Hey there.
Hello. Hi, I'm a New York State Trooper, and I remember how big a deal this was during the escape. So my question was, how much does the series focus on the law enforcement aspect, their point of view, and also, did you guys research by talking to law enforcement, or did Ben Stiller to get the story right? Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, we did talk to law enforcement. I talked to a CEO that actually was in the jail when Richard Matt was there, and I asked him, you know, what can you tell me about Richard Matt? And he said, you know, he really kept to himself. He never stood out. It was a normal inmate in a way. So that was really interesting for me. You know, you have this convicted murderer who is not someone that you really, is a bad guy, really. But then there is this side of like him, like quiet. It added another dimension to my thought about the character. But we met with many law enforcement, and you know, thank you for what you do. You know, and it's you know, you actually got the problem back in the bottle. You know, so thank you.
The CEO who was with Tilly when she got arrested was the CEO in the movie who's with. So she gave me a lot of information about that. I think it's very important to
The guy in
believe-
the grocery store? That's the actual...
Oh, no.
Oh, excuse me, sorry.
The woman, the female guard that's with Tilly.
Oh, yeah.
When she first gets arrested, was with Tilly when she first got arrested. Her early days in jail. But also, you know, he had gone to... Sweat had gone to jail for killing a police officer. So that was an important thing, and I think it was important to Ben, while these guys are charming and hustlers and all this stuff, and to also show the other side of it, that it's not pretty.
But it's from our point of views, but Ben went through great lengths to incorporate that stuff, including the state trooper shot Sweat was with us. The sergeant who oversaw the manhunt was with us a lot. A lot of the guys who were on the team that found Richard Matt were there with us. Ben went as far as he could to bring those details into it.
I also think without giving anything away, it goes to great lengths to show what David Sweat did to get into prison and sort of tell the story of a trooper that I think would rarely get told in a project like this.
Yes, I agree with you, and the way it just it follows the state trooper, and it's just beautiful.
Yeah. Next question.
Hi guys, my name's Mais, and you talk about working in a lot of these really intense environments as actors. Is there any kind of pre-performance ritual that you use to ground yourself, to allow yourself to create?
Don't give away your magical secrets. Mystery, Mr. Dano.
No, yeah, I
mystery,
agree.
mystery.
I think it's fun for every, different for every character, right? And just what's the energy that you're trying to, sort of step into and cultivate. And then also, another element of that is we did this for 6 months. Like, can we leave that behind? How do we leave that behind? So I think ritual is a nice thing and, a fun thing. And I think it's fun to also discover what it is for each character.
I definitely felt when we were shooting in the prisons and we were going through, going back to our start mark, but we'd have to pass through an active live hallway or something with prisoners coming and going and guards. I felt like first things first, this could be dangerous. When we we went to the actual tailor shop where this all happened, and the woman who took over Tilly's job was showing us around. These guys are walking around with 14-inch scissors. It's like they said, we're going to walk you through, and then we can't walk you back. Because once they've seen you, we can't go back that way. And so for me, before the even preparation, that's a luxury. I was just like, I want to live and make sure everyone's okay. Nothing goes down. I want to know where to go. And I just couldn't get out of those prisons fast enough. Like, that's heavy and kind of scary.
Did any of the prisoners recognize you guys and Ben from any of your movies or anything?
And
when you were touring the prisons, when you were walking around?
Yeah.
I just want to know if a prisoner shouted, "Fuckers!" when he was in there.
I don't remember that, but
shouting occurred.
The other thing too is like the other thing about the ritual as an actor or as that you do, but there's something that for me a lot of it has to do with decompression. So when you finish shooting, like music always is kind of like as I go home after a day of work and as I go to work. Music is always kind of like something that makes you kind of like get focused or gives you some energy or makes you, relax.
I think we have time for one more question.
Hi. Since this is a show about a prison break, I wanted to know what were each of your favorite prison break movies or TV series?
Mine, okay, I'll take this because I'm sitting here. Papillon, the Steve McQueen and Dustin Hoffman and Anthony Zerbe movie. I saw that when I was a kid, and I thought that was like a great, and I think that's Franklin Schaffner was the name of the director also. Great American filmmaker, but great, one of those movies that I like, Papillon.
It's not really a prison break movie, but I loved, as a prison movie, Midnight Express. It was very tense, special, vibe in there.
A film called A Man Escaped by Robert Bresson is a very good film.
I had a feeling you'd go there.
Yeah.
Guys, I love the series.
He hangs out in New York City, that's why.
Yeah. Guys, I love this series so much. It's an incredible work. Congratulations on all of your performances and the great series overall. It premieres on Showtime this Sunday, I believe, so people can check it out. And everybody, please give a huge round of applause for Paul, Patricia, and Benicio. Let's hear it.
Thank you. Thank you.